and welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited today to share with you my cover for Real Sugar is Hard to Find. So this is my short story collection. It's queer climate fiction. It's a mix of science fiction, fantasy, and horror. And all of these short stories are, a lot of them are all my stories that were published over the last 3 years, and as well there are new stories that you have never been able to read from me before. I'm so excited that the cover is out in the world because not only is it a beautiful cover and I'm thrilled with the design, but I loved the collaborative process that I went through with my publisher in developing this cover. So you may have heard that if you're working with a traditional publisher, the author has very little input whatsoever on the cover. They may not even get any kind of like veto power or anything. If you're a self-published author, then obviously the cover design is like totally up to you, and you get to hire whoever the artist is and decide what you want them to put and do everything. So being with a small press, I really loved my book's coming out with Android Press, and I really loved the amount of collaboration that went into this cover, and I'm really excited with how it turned out. So I'm excited to show it to you a little bit later in the video. It revealed this morning at tor.com at 9 a.m. and I'll link to that below. They actually released the wrong version of the cover. We ended up deciding to add the word stories to the cover, and the version they posted does not have stories, even though my publisher, there was some kind of miscommunication that happened. So that's fine though. The cover they posted is like mostly the right cover. That little corner is gonna bother me. Okay. So first, before we go any further, I want to show you the cover of Real Sugar is Hard to Find. So there's so many details in this art that I love. Peter is the main character of the titular story of this collection, and he is carrying a cake enclosed in some kind of cake carrier. As you can see, the air quality in the world that Peter lives in is not great. Particulate matter in the air, so wildfires and pollution have made the air quality so bad that wearing a respirator outside is necessary, and people pay high premiums on their rent in order to be able to stay in one of the domed communities that you can see in the background. Agriculture is completely like drone produced in this world, even more so than it is in ours. So you see these giant harvester drones there on the horizon. And Peter is carrying a cake for his sister, and you'll have to read the story about why. But the cake is really, the sweetness of the cake is like, that's kind of the whole theme of the story. You know, I'm in this collection, which is all climate fiction. There's a lot of really bleak futures, but in every story, I promise you, there is that sweetness, there is that cake, it is a promise to me and to my children that even in the darkest of times, there will be joy, and there will be birthdays, and there will be cake, and there will be beauty, and there will always be hope, and always reasons to fight for a better world, even as we are watching things deteriorate around us. So that was kind of the themes of the book, and so I love that the cake is featured on the cover of this collection. Let's talk about the process of developing this cover. So the first thing that happened when I signed with Android Press is they sent me a survey with my ideas for the cover, and I think this is so cool that they did this. So one of the things they asked was like preferred color schemes, what would you like to see on the cover, and something I really appreciated was they put what are your absolute no's, like what do you not want on the cover. And at first I was like, oh, I don't have strong feelings about that, but then I thought about it and I really did. So some of the things I put as no's were I didn't want a pastel color scheme because I didn't want it to look feminized or like feminine or be included in like chick lit, especially since I'm like non-binary. Like I don't want to be included in women's lit, which is a thing that happens. I didn't want those really like flat 2D pictures. I just think that those are so associated with the romance genre that it would just be really sending the wrong signals for this book, even though they're like super trendy right now. I didn't want a picture of a gun on the cover, even though some of the stories involve guns and a threat of gun violence. I did not, I just feel really strongly about like any kind of like glamorization or glorification of gun violence, and I just didn't want a picture of one on the cover. It would have made me sad. And finally, I didn't want any like femme or women characters with the tops of their heads cut off, you know, where it's just like their nose down. That is a big pet peeve of mine. The eyes are like the seat of the soul, you know, location of agency. So I just really don't like all the book covers that start right here. So those were my no's. In terms of my ideas for the cover, they ended up taking one of my suggestions and giving that to the artist. So I suggested a couple different scenes from the stories that I thought would make really interesting cover scenes. And one of the ones I pitched was this scene from Real Sugar is Hard to Find where Peter's holding a cake. The publisher liked that suggestion. So Justine, my editor, gave those notes, that description to Brie Castagnosi, who's the artist who drew our beautiful cover. Brie is a falconer, which sounds so cool. I'm reading her Twitter bio. Artist, writer, and college instructor, co-editor-in-chief of Solar Punk magazine, queer and Filipino American. And Brie, from the moment I saw the line-drawn sketches of the cover, I was just in love with the whole concept. So from that point, I got to see like even the very early sketches. Once Brie started adding color, I got to go like back and forth, like, do you want a more saturated look? Do you want a more muted look? Like I was given a couple options to choose from, which was really cool. There were some places where like I felt like Peter was fading into the shading, and Brie did some stuff to like bring him out more. So that whole process was really cool. And then we had the final cover art with like the color scheme figured out and everything. And Justine sent me some mock-ups with the font, with the title, you know, and my name written in. I wasn't, to be honest, really in love with the fonts and the color choices. So I asked if I could have a little bit more input there. And Justine said yes. And actually my kid is extremely good with the iPad. And I had some ideas about like fonts and colors that I wanted to use. So me and my 16-year-old just sat down, and she was like just so fast on the iPad using Procreate. Like she's incredible at it and creates really beautiful art. And she just like, we tried some different fonts that I thought would be a good idea. And then I was reading Crying in H Mart at the time, and I really loved the hand-drawn lettering from Crying in H Mart. And I was thinking, you know, this book, like the cover is this like sketchy kind of art. It has kind of a sketchy feel. I think that a hand-drawn lettering could look really cool. So I asked my daughter, like, can you just like draw the title? And she did, and it looked so much better to me and more like alive and organic than any of the fonts we've been playing around with. And she also chose the color, which was picked up from the color in Peter's pants, that like purpley, this like purpley mauve color that we ended up looking really good for the title. And then my name at the bottom, she drew that, and that Sim Kern is the color there is picked up from the cake. So the cover design credit actually ends up going to my daughter Lane, because when we showed all the design mock-ups we'd come up with to the publisher, she agreed that the one that my kid had drawn was the best. So I thought that was really awesome. I love that my kid drew the lettering that's going to be on my book. Like, I just think that's so cool. So that's my cover. Please tell me what you think, but only if it's positive, because I really don't want to hear it if you don't like it. But yeah, please leave any glowing reviews about how lovely my cover is. And, you know, thank you notes to Brie. If you want to follow Brie on Twitter, she is at Mosshawk Arts. My publisher, I need to thank, is Justine Norton-Kurtzen, and she is the editor-in-chief of Android Press, and they are my publisher. And I'm very grateful to them, because it feels like a very lucky, wonderful thing to be having a short story collection coming out into the world. What else? I'm going to put pre-order link. You can finally pre-order. So in the description below, for right now, you can only pre-order from my publisher, but I'm sure pre-ordering like other places will be coming soon. So pre-order links from my publisher in the description below. I will get the most money from orders from the publisher. So please pre-order there if you can. I will also leave a link to the Goodreads page for this book. If you, whenever, you know, you get it and you review it, please leave a link on Goodreads. Until that happens, you can add it on Goodreads. Just add it, click that little want to read button and add it to your shelf to remind yourself to get it later. That'll also help, you know, boost me in the algorithm and stuff. If you are a YouTuber and you get books on NetGalley, you can review the book for free. You can get an ARC right now. Go on NetGalley and request Real Sugar is Hard to Find by Sim Kern. And I would love to see some of my fellow booktubers reviewing this book. That would be such a thrill. All right, please like and subscribe. Bye.